Hi, and welcome to the Pencil Factory section of Unveil Atlanta's. This audio segment will concentrate on the pencil factory and the people that work there and their significant impact on history of the Atlanta area. My first impressions of this site did not get me excited about it as an important site to visit. My initial investigation led me to believe that this was a ploy to sell real estate. Initial web searches led me to the pencil lofts and shops, where you get unprecedented views of the Atlanta skyline and live walking distances from Georgia State University and the Georgia State Capitol. Pencil Factory Flats and Shops is located at the historic intersection of Hill Street and Decatur Street, with immediate access to downtown and MARTA. The apartments are sleek and comfortable, featuring gourmet kitchens and granite counters, stainless steel appliances, tile backsplashes, and espresso wood cabinetry, luxurious bathrooms with double vanities, showers, and garden tubs with warm hardwood flooring. This made me wonder why this would be an important site to investigate for my readers to go and visit. After a lot more research and finding some sites and movies that are dedicated to actual interesting history behind the pencil factory, I found an interesting history hidden behind these upscale apartments. The first piece of information that I would like to share about the pencil factory is that of the story of a little girl that was murdered at this site on April 23, 1913. April 23rd does not have the same meaning today as it has in the past. It was a huge holiday in the southern states. Confederate Memorial Day is a state holiday in some states in the United States. It gives people a chance to honor and remember the Confederate soldiers who died or were wounded during the American Civil War during the 1860s. The website leofrank.org tells a story that Leo Frank was a young businessman that had moved to the South after being educated in Europe and being raised in the northern area. However, in 1913, the memories of the Civil War were still fresh in many of the civilian leaders of the South. This led to many people being resentful of Yankees, moving down south to the South to exploit the young people and their cheap wages. At this time, there was an abundance of young workers with starving families. Many northern businessmen moved their businesses to the Atlanta area to take advantage of the cheap labor markets. Some of these people took advantage of the poor working conditions and treated their laborers with little respect. During this time, child prostitution and gambling were running rampant throughout the South. When the news of one of the young girls that worked in this northern-owned factory surfaced, the public went crazy with anger. Testimony from the Leo Frank case showed that on the day of the murder, Little Mary Phagan went down to the factory to pick her paycheck from Mr. Frank. After that, she had planned to go to the celebrations for Confederate Memorial Day. She never made it to the festivities. After picking up her paycheck from Mr. Frank, she was never heard from again. The last person to see Mary Phagan was the factory superintendent, Leo Frank. The case was controversial. Frank and his lawyers blamed the murder on the black janitor and night watchman Jen Conley. The factory janitor, whom historians believe raped and murdered the girl, was the first person accused of the crime. However, after testimony from Conley that Frank had offered him $200 to help him dispose of the body and clean up the bloody mess, Leo Frank was arrested. Conley's testimony was that he and Leo drugged the girl's body to the basement of the factory and had intended on burning her body. For some reason, Frank didn't want to put her inside of the broiler. Conley's testimony went on to say that Frank took back the money that he had promised to pay him. Frank said he would later give the money to Conley on the promise that he'd dispose of the body, and Frank said that he would pay Conley later in the week, but gave him $2.50 and a half a pack of cigarettes until the job was done. Instead of disposing of the body, he left the factory and went out drinking and gambling, according to Sutherland in 1929. The next morning, the night watchman found the girl's body, and being a black man with a dead body near him, feared for his life and notified the police. The police arrested the night watchman for questioning, then questioned Conley and arrested him as well. From October 12th to April 1913, there had been 15 unsolved murders in the Atlanta area, and the public was nearing a frenzy. Sutherland, 1929. The courts tried and convicted Frank in a court of law, But against public popularity, they didn't sentence him to death, but to life in prison. The sentencing incited the local townspeople enough to go and bring Frank out of prison in Milledgeville, Georgia. He was paraded from Milledgeville to Marietta, Georgia, where he was strung from a tree and hung. Reports have shown that some of the most prominent names in the Atlanta area were part of the lynch mob that broke him out of jail and strung him up from a tree in the Marietta Square. This is the only known instance of a Jewish man being involved in an American lynch mob violence. The town decided that the message to Yankee immigrants that the South will not tolerate Yankee dishonesty to our Southern girls. They believed that this was a better message to send than that of another black man to the gallows. So they paraded him from downtown Atlanta to Marietta and hung him in the square. At this time, there were still strong tensions between the rich Yankee business people taking advantage of the cheap, poor labor in the South had plenty of. The National Pencil Factory was a location of the crime that sparked anti-Semitism throughout the South. This case is one of the most mysterious cases of who actually murdered Little Mary Phagan. This case and how prominent members of civilized society could resort to such strong mob violence without anyone receiving reprisal. The lynching garnered national attention that a Jewish businessman could be lynched in Atlanta with no one stepping up to prosecute the case. Almost 100 years later, most tenants of the Pencil Factory flats are unaware of the murder that sparked a national frenzy and one of the most confusing murders in U.S. history. After doing all this research on the Atlanta Pencil Factory, I decided to take a trip down to the location of one of the most heinous crimes in American history. When the GPS finally led me to the Pencil Factory, I immediately saw the draw to this building. The Pencil Factory does not look like it was ever a factory there. It is an abundance of retail space available perched below an enormous amount of apartments and complexes. I guess it's lucky for the residents that most of them do not know the history of this building. It seems to be just another apartment building that has a lot of windows and a few balconies. After learning about the history of the Pencil Factory, I was surprised to actually see this modern dwelling with people coming and going to the area. It is rife with new construction and many different shops. The location of the Pencil Factory has its attractiveness with its closeness to the public transportation. The area is littered with some graffiti and markings which detract from the luster of this historical site. It's amazing to see that this was the site of a murder that caused a national uproar about Southern hostility towards Northern people. Thank you for listening to this blog post. Have a good day.